All right, today we're going to talk about the psychology of running a startup. Can also be described as the psychology of entrepreneurs. Um, I'm Nick Redmark, I'm a professional life coach. If you're interested in a free hour of coaching, then check out the link in the description below. You just need to pick a date and a time, and then we can get rolling. But what is the psychology of startups? Let's look first at some studies, some of the things that, or let's look at one study. So there is this article here by Capterra, and they quote the study, and this is quite interesting for us because we have this focus on personality and on this psychology aspect. And so what we can see here, so in blue, in dark blue are the entrepreneurs, and in light blue are employees. So the first thing that we need to say is that they said, the authors of the study said that even though there are like averages, and these averages are different from the averages for employees, there is still a huge variety among entrepreneurs. So what we're going to discuss now are averages, and they don't characterize every entrepreneur. But from the Big Five, we have been talking about the Big Five a lot, so this is the personality model. we see there are some slight differences. So, for example, entrepreneurs are above average in openness, something that you would expect because you need to kind of be innovative, creative, and so on. Also higher in conscientiousness, because obviously, right, if you're an entrepreneur, there are things that you just have to do, and you need to be conscientious enough to do them. And surprising though is a lower, below average in extraversion. This is interesting. Below average in agreeableness, and below average on neuroticism. So neuroticism, that's not surprising, because as an entrepreneur, you expose yourself to risk, to uncertainty, and it definitely is an advantage if it doesn't affect you too much, right? And as a neurotic person high in neuroticism, it would really affect you a lot. And low agreeableness also, I can imagine, because you kind of, as an entrepreneur, you need to go your way, and even if people don't believe in you, you just have to believe in yourself, that kind of thing. And for that, it's good if you are low in agreeableness. But the extroversion part is surprising to me. I would have expected that if you're an entrepreneur, you kind of want to be with people and kind of find partnerships and so on. But it looks like there is a slight difference here, and as an employee, probably you have a bigger advantage being extroverted, so you might have to work in a team. That's something that I just learned, surprising. But then we see a lot of other properties entrepreneurs have, and that are all above average. So risk propensity, locus of control, achievement motivation, innovativeness and initiative, and autonomy. It looks like the biggest difference really for between employees and entrepreneurs is your need for autonomy. And here it's stark, right? Employees on average really don't need much autonomy. It's almost zero there. And employee and entrepreneurs have a high need of autonomy. And so, yeah, that's interesting. It's good to know. I personally am extremely high in openness. I'm not running a startup, but I'm trying to build a lifestyle business. So it's not exactly the same. I'm also trying to do something as a solopreneur, not as a I'm not building a startup with this idea of finding capital and growing as much as possible. For me, I'm bootstrapping it. I want it to be sustainable, and I'm not extremely ambitious. I just want something that is sustainable and allows me to do what I love to do. So, and perhaps this might compensate with my lower levels of conscientiousness. But anyway, yes, autonomy. Autonomy seems really the factor here for me. I really need that. I really enjoy it, even though it can be painful, with some degree of neuroticism, which I have. It can be painful, but I really feel it as a need to be able to kind of determine my own life. And yeah, if you feel the need for autonomy, then really subscribe to this channel, because we have common values, and I really want, I'm focusing a lot on living an autonomous life in this channel. It's a wording that I didn't use until now, but I see that that's actually one of the best descriptions. So if you want an autonomous life, if you want to a self-determined life, then subscribe and we can talk about that. And then, so there are a few things that I was thinking about when thinking about what it takes to to have a startup, and there is something characteristic of being an entrepreneur, which is you have to do a number of balancing acts. For example, let's take one that comes to mind. On one hand, you have to believe in what you're doing in an extreme way, like in an almost delusional way, because it's extremely likely that you will fail. But if you don't believe in what you're doing, then it's going to be hard for anyone else to be convinced. But then on the other hand, you need to be extremely practical. You need to understand reality and be in touch with reality, and what is going to work and what is not going to work. And so these are kind of two extreme things, and they both need to be true at the same time. You need to be able to live with taking decisions under uncertainty. So there is no guarantee that anything that you do is right. There is no guarantee that anything that you will do will work. But at the same time, you need to take decisions all the time and keep the ball rolling. From that point of view, action is more important than thought. Obviously, thought helps and the strategy helps, but there is, like in this modern environment that is very chaotic, very unpredictable, to learn from experiences is more helpful than to have a plan, because every plan is going to be limited and it won't predict the reality. So yes, like living with that pressure of not, and anxiety and uncertainty, that's like one other kind of balancing act that you have to do. And then there is this other one. You need to be extremely enthusiastic and passionate about what you're doing, even though maybe other people aren't. So even though you don't see the response, you don't see the results yet, and at the same time you need to kind of have this self-discipline to keep on doing it for a long time. So passion characteristically is like something that comes and goes quickly, but that's not enough. You need passion well beyond your initial enthusiasm. So you need passion, but then you need also to think long term and build habits and so on. Because usually if you are going to be successful, it's going to have an exponential growth curve. So at the beginning, the progress you're making is going to be invisible. It's going to be like watching paint dry, grass grow. It's not going to be something that you can measure. So you will have to measure your everyday efforts, even though they are not really what you actually want in the end, right? And then if you're going to be successful, which again is nothing, there is no guarantee, you are going to, at a certain point, the exponential curve is going to kind of surface and it's going to become measurable. The outcome is going to become measurable, and then you're on a roll. You can like iterate and improve, but there is a long period of time where you just have to experiment and just keep going, and you don't know what will work, and so living with this balancing act of having strong enthusiasm, but then kind of lowering your expectations at the beginning, and just keeping going on a regular basis. So another kind of tension there is that you need to be very experimental. You need to like try things out, but then you also need to be disciplined and do the right thing when you see, even though you don't feel like. So and then there is a tension there as well. So if you're going to be high in openness, you're going to be comfortable with the experimenting part, but that's going to be a problem once you see, okay, this is what is working, so I'm going to narrow down and focus on that. long term, right? And so again, there like both aspects really need to be there. You need to learn both things. What else? Obviously, there is an issue of timing. Something that I should have said at the beginning, the psychology, when talking about the psychology of entrepreneurship, of creating a startup, but I would say entrepreneurship in general, is that there are, when you want to build a business, there are two types of problems. There are practical problems, which require you to kind of think and make good decisions and then enact those decisions, which are the problems that a computer would have to solve. So if you were a computer, you would only have to solve those problems, and that's already hard enough. But then, because you're a human being, there are a number of psychological problems. So dealing with anxiety, dealing with self-doubt, dealing with all sorts of mind tricks your mind can put on you, like your ego can grow and you can become blind to feedback that would save you, and you can have blind spots of all sorts, biases. You can have inertia. You can kind of you could be someone who like keeps trying the same thing and should change, or you could be the one who kind of gives up too early, and so this is not about rationality. I mean, it is about all the impediments to rationality, if you will. So if you were a machine, you would just have to kind of solve the rational problem, but then there is all the kind of the baggage that we have as a biological being. Obviously, there are also advantages within that realm, because a lot is about also inspiring and influencing other people and building culture, something that in a sense a machine cannot do, because it's still us who are giving goals to machines, right? So and we have this capacity of creating our own goals. No, I think that's it. So to wrap it up, I think the biggest factor we have learned that characterizes an entrepreneur is the need for autonomy. And that is going to determine whether you want to try to build your own business. And then there are other things that we have seen that are more average, and probably there is a lot of variation. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking to and kind of interacting with people who value autonomy, that want to make their own decisions, and then have to kind of deal with the psychological consequences of living that kind of life. And you might have a personality that kind of favors it, for example, having low neuroticism, for example, but it is possible to live also with a higher degree of neuroticism as an independent person. It's just you will need to find ways to deal with it and cope with it. So, and this is all my channel is about. And again, like, subscribe, and if you're interested in 1 hour free coaching, we can then like look at your situation in particular and kind of find a way to deal with that specifically. Then you can get 1 hour of free coaching, link in the description below. Thank you for watching. Bye.